thank you for tuning in into the Automation and Self-Service podcast. I'm your host, Sandra Carpenter, editor of Kiosk Marketplace and Vending Times, and I'm excited to be joined today by Dr. Anora Morton, CEO and founder of the Nori Project. Thank you for joining us this morning, Dr. Morton.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah. So first, I do want to just kind of start talking about filling in our listeners to what Nori is in general. So what is the project and kind of how was the business model born?
Yeah, so it's a long story, Sandra, but I'll give you Nori in a nutshell here up first. Nori is the startup revolutionizing healthy food access. We help people that are looking for healthy food but that struggle to access it by providing them affordable 24/7 access to healthy, affordable, locally sourced food via a network of Japanese inspired vending machines. We are for profit, so we want to go where we can, stay sustainable, but we also are mission based at the same time. So one of our goals is to help eradicate food insecurity, and there are several initiatives across several different cities in this nation working towards that goal. And what we've learned is that it takes a village, and we're still not quite there yet. There's still lots of people suffering from food insecurity, whether if they're living in food deserts or not. But what Nori's trying to do is we're trying to be another beacon towards that effort and have people use us as a resource to get fresh, healthy, locally sourced food. So we're targeting high traffic areas, but we're also targeting those places that need this healthy food the most. So if you think of other healthy food vending companies, let's talk about Farmer's Fridge for a bit. Most of the time when we see them, we only see them in high foot traffic areas such as airports, hospitals, so on and so forth. And then when they're there, it's like, okay, cool, they're there. If you really want some mass produced healthy food, that's your business. But what Nori seeks to do is that we want to get healthy food where it's needed the most, plus some. So, for example, one of our locations is in a food desert in Louisville, Kentucky. It's in the Shawnee neighborhood. I used to live there when I was studying law, and I firsthand had the experience of food insecurity in the middle of COVID and not being able to get fresh, healthy food. So it was kind of a personal prerogative for me to make sure that once Nori got rolling, that I could put one of our vending machines there. So now it's there in a public library in Shawnee in Louisville, Kentucky. And we offer that healthy, affordable, locally sourced meals and snacks and drinks in there as well.
That's incredible. And I think it's so. Can you talk a little bit about like the food itself? So, what the Nori machines offer versus like what maybe a traditional vending machine might offer, and then how does, especially like the locally sourced aspects of it and the
Mhm.
freshness, how does that all work?
Right.
Excuse
So
me.
I'm glad you asked. So one of the things that Nori aims to do is we want to put on our local food providers, depending on the jurisdiction of that machine. Say that machine's in Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati, Ohio, New Albany, Indiana. Depending on the locality of that specific machine, we want to make sure that we have some options that are specific to that area, such as meals, drinks, even so on and so forth. So, for example, with our machines here in Louisville, all of the meals in them are locally sourced. So we work with local chefs to help us create specific menu options for our nori machines. For example, one of those meal items is called onigiri. It's a specific cuisine that I had when I was in Japan, and I haven't had it since I was in Japan, but for my nori machines. So I had those chefs create that, give it a healthy spin, and it just brings that Japanese culture to this machine. But beyond that, we want to make sure that we're offering people meals that they're familiar with, so they're inclined to try it if they're not, regularly health type eating folks. So, for example, another meal option that we came up with our local chefs is called the Soul Bowl. It is a healthy spin on soul food. It has chicken in it, it has sweet potatoes, collard greens, all of the things, but it's cooked in a healthy manner using whole ingredients, so on and so forth. So, we want to introduce to people like, hey, here's a meal you may be familiar with, but it's got a healthy spin on it. We want to help people create healthy habits. Additionally, in one of our machines, we're working with a local kombucha company called Elixir Kombucha. They make kombucha in Louisville, Kentucky. And so we make sure that we put that in there. It's great kombucha. So, and as time goes on, what I would like to see is all of our products in our machines be locally sourced in a perfect world. And here soon, we're going to have some farmers fresh produce in our machines, so on and so forth. And that's definitely going to be locally sourced. So that's kind of what we're doing. We don't produce any food. No food coming out of a Nori machine is produced by us. I cook at home and that's it. So when we're talking about meals and our machines, they all come from the community. And that is very important to me and to Nori, that we make sure that we're putting on our local providers, because a lot of times they may get overlooked, or say, for example, they need another stream of revenue. I'd love to buy their products wholesale. I know they're tasty. I know people will love them. Let's spread them. So that's
Right.
kind of another thing that Nori seeks to do as well.
That's fascinating. So this is kind of a big question. And I'm interested because we see kind of the ups and downs of tariffs and imports, and we're not sure how, like, I guess I'm curious about how are your local vendors working with that, and then how are you, do you see, like, with the actual manufacturing of the machines itself, like, is that something that is um like affecting your model moving forward, or is it something that's kind of like not as not impacting you all as much as a more locally sourced
So I'm really glad you
practice?
asked this question. When I was growing up, my mom always told me, whenever I faced some sort of adversity, she always told me one monkey doesn't stop a show. And that's kind of how I'm moving and grooving with this. I've had some other startup buddies of mine that have hardware based startups like Nori is, and they're sweating a bit. I haven't dropped the first drop of sweat because I just can't worry about it. At the end of the day, my goal is to get this food out to these people, and I'm going to do it regardless if there's tariffs or not. It may look different once the tariffs hit, if they hit, so it's just one of those things where I can't worry about it. And that when it comes to startups, the power is in the pivot anyway, So I can't worry about it. As far as the people that we're working with, they haven't had any issues firsthand of what I know. And Nori has not as of yet. Hopefully we never do. But like I said, if we do, it is what it is. I've faced bigger, worse things. I'm not worried about it.
I really like that approach. And I think one thing, especially as we head into the summer and you're able to work with like locally sourced produce, like that's a good pivot. And it's also really beneficial to the community itself. And I'm wondering, the powers in the pivot, that's something that I really appreciate. And I've been following Nori for a little while, and you all have pivoted and changed your model just a little bit. And I would love for you to talk about what that's looked like and how you've kind of turned this into like a profitable, scalable business.
Right, right. When I started Nori, one of the things that I really was kind of, I guess, a touch ignorant to was, I guess, the lack of profitability when it comes to doing good things by people. And you think I would know this because my background before I started Nori, I was a public defender. So I was, in the courtroom defending people and I couldn't pay my bills. But I also decided, when I started Nora, I was like, it's usually you have to pick one. Either you do work that benefits others or you make a lot of money. It's usually you have to pick one. And I just decided that I was never going to pick one, that I'll do both and I'll figure it out. And if that doesn't exist, then I'll make a way. So that's kind of what we've done with Nori. And right now we're kind of pivoting away from, because I think what we gave off at first, even with the name, the Nori Project, right now we're kind of going by doing business as Nori. So I think we're pivoting away from kind of that charitable aspect, but we still remain mission based. You know, it's all about getting food to the people that need it. And so one of the things that we've done is we've created two different revenue streams. So like I was speaking about before, when you see larger companies like Farmers Fridge, they're in airports, so on and so forth, their most profitable revenue stream is that B2C. So they get their vending machines in high foot traffic areas and they make their revenue on the sales. Okay, that's very common sense ABC 1, 2, 3 approach. But what we do is we emphasize our B2B approach. That's how we make sure that we get this food in the places they need. So essentially, we work with organizations that are willing to subsidize the cost of us putting this healthy food in this vending machine in their space so we can make sure that we get people the food that need it the most. For example, in that neighborhood in Louisville where our vending machine is at, we're working with that public library and they help to subsidize the cost of operating the machine and the healthy food in it because we all know the price of groceries is insane now, right? So what they do is by them helping subsidize that cost, we can then offer them a meal for $4. We can offer them a meal for $5. We can offer them a water for $1, the way that it should be, the way that it was back in the day, you know? So that is what we're working towards. That's what we're pushing on the most because getting our machines in high foot traffic areas, would that benefit us revenue wise? Absolutely. But that's not where the mission lies. Are we going to do that? Absolutely. We will be in places where Farmers Fridge is and beyond. But at the same time, we're really focused on that mission based. So we have pivoted a bit. So back to your point, we have pivoted a bit where it's not, hopefully it's not giving off that charitable theme facing front. A lot of people misconstrued Nori as a nonprofit. It's like, we're not. You know, we have to remain sustainable, but at the same
Right.
time, that mission is loud and we're loud about it and we're serious about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think whenever you're discussing like specifically like working in food desert neighborhoods and then the role the public library itself plays is huge. And I think that not a lot of people, especially people who just like maybe aren't as familiar with the needs of like unhoused people or people in food deserts, could you talk just a little bit about like what the foot traffic looks like in that kind of
Mhm.
space and like what the reception has been to the machine in that library specifically?
Yeah, so it and in those places where we're working to put machines where the cost of it is subsidized, our B2B, the foot traffic is drastically lower than it would be at an airport or a hospital, so on and so forth. And that's why we have to subsidize the cost. But since we've put it there, we have noticed as time goes on, and we've been in the news, word gets out, so on and so forth, that foot traffic has ticked up. It keeps increasing. There are people that are making trips just to that library to get something. And that's what we wanted. We wanted something in that neighborhood where if you didn't want to go to the Kroger that was, I say nearby, but it's not really, depending on where you're at. If you don't want to go there, or say you want something specific that you know is in the Nori machine and is not at Kroger, um, you can do that. That is what we wanted. We wanted to be that resource. And I thank the Louisville Free Public Library, you know, tremendously for being, you know, a pivotal aspect in that, allowing people to come in and use their space like that. They are considered a safe space, and so it has ticked up tremendously. And you asked another question. I think I lost that one.
Just about, I think we were talking about, I think you've mostly answered it. So just basically like, what's the importance of the library
Mhm.
itself? And then I asked, how has the reception been? And one thing that I was curious about that you did say is that some people are specifically coming to that location to seek out the food. So it's
Mhm.
not as much happenstance as it is like, hey, I need lunch. I'm going to head to this library and go to this machine, as opposed to like what are the other options in that area?
In that area specifically, it's more considered a food apartheid rather
Okay.
than a food desert. You could argue both ways, to be honest with you. I would argue that it's a food desert as well, but it is definitely a food apartheid, meaning that there's food there, but it's giving fast food, it's giving convenience store, it's nothing nutritious. It's probably maybe affordable, but it's nothing that you need in your body to nourish you. And that's what we wanted to give via our Nori machine. And so eventually, especially once we start putting fresh produce in there, I definitely hope to see that foot traffic ticking up in that particular area, to see people going to get that. Because when I experienced food insecurity in that neighborhood in Louisville, it was in the middle of COVID, so it was already hard to get what I wanted there. And I had to travel all the way across the city to get what I wanted from a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods. And then in COVID, early days of COVID, when everybody was scared to go outside, we didn't know what was going on. It felt like I had to risk my life to go get food because no one would deliver food to me because of where I lived. Oftentimes in that area in the west end of Louisville, Kentucky, you get that a lot. A lot of people won't deliver to you, grocery stores won't deliver to you because you're in that area. That area is a predominantly Black area of the city, and a lot of people don't go out there. So I felt like I had to risk my life to go get what I considered to be essential. And that was a breaking point for me. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I have to do something about it.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope that the Nori machine in that neighborhood in Louisville becomes for people, a point where they say, hey, I may not be able to get this from a big retailer, but I know Nori's got it. So
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of a beautiful thing too, because especially if you're thinking about folks who are like maybe working many jobs or have like children that they have to care for. So getting food on the go that's
mhm.
healthy and affordable. And especially if we're talking about produce, like I'm assuming it's packaged and ready to eat. So this isn't something that you have to take home and wash and prepare. Like you can eat this healthy food and then kind of go about your day.
We wanna do both. We wanna have
Okay.
fresh and ready to eat produce, whether that be fruits, veggies, and then I also wanna have, like, some bags that they can take home.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
it's a neighborhood area. Even if it was a commercial area, I would be inclined to do that. Because how many times do we get off work and we're like, we do not want to go to the store, you know?
Every day.
So exactly. So
Yeah.
if you could stop by your local Nori machine, or say it's in the building where you work, or say it's just a quick walk away, which is how we plan to scale, where it's a quick walk away for most people. Yeah, I absolutely would like to have some things in there where you can take it home, wash it, put it in a salad, or do whatever you want with it. We
Incredible.
wanna have both, absolutely.
Incredible. So I actually I'll message you this after we're finished here, but I have worked with have you heard of Rootbound Farm?
Yes, I have actually.
So they're a CSA that operates out of Oldham County, but they deliver within Jefferson County. And I would love to connect you with them because I think that they would be really, really into your mission. They're also social justice based.
Absolutely. I definitely want to. I've talked to a lot of farmers, a lot of organizations. I would love to be connected with them as well,
Perfect.
because we are about to roll out some of these farmers' produce things. I want Nori to act as like a mini grocery, a mini restaurant, and a mini, farmers market as well. And we can do all of those things. And that is our goal. And additionally, another thing that people can know about Nori is that we do not waste food. So we don't contribute to food waste at all. All of our meals, all of our prepared meals, say, for example, they've been in the machine for maybe 3 or 4 days. That's another thing. We never keep the food in our machines as long as they're, good to eat. We take them out sooner than that
Okay.
because we want you to have the absolute freshest meal. So say the machine, or say the meal's been in there for about 3 or 4 days. If it's looking like it's not going to sale by then, we'll take it out. We take it out and then we donate it back to that local community. So what we've been doing is that we take our meals out on that third or fourth day, depending, because we restock the machines 2 to 3 times weekly, depending on the foot traffic. We take that
Yeah,
out. If it hasn't sold, we're like, hey, it's not selling. We'll chop that up as a loss and we'll go and donate that meal. We do not contribute to food waste.
that's
So that's
incredible.
something else that people know, is that when they go and purchase something on a Nori machine, it is a full circle community effort,
Yes.
in food justice and food security.
Yeah. And I think that someone who, like, I've worked in food service before, and it's such a shame to see how much stuff gets pitched. That's
Yeah.
also still good, but because of the date, you have
Yes.
to pitch it. So the fact that you all are being conscious about pulling it before that date and then
Mhm.
being able to donate it, is pretty, in my mind, pretty revolutionary. I think that it's wonderful for the community. The only other question that I had was, and you've already touched on this a little bit, where do you see Nori expanding in the future?
I want most people, and when I say most people, I'm talking about, people in the city. I'm talking about people in Appalachia. I'm talking
Hmm.
about people in rural areas. I grew up in Versailles, Kentucky, and
Yeah.
before being in Versailles, Kentucky, my family has roots in Millville, Kentucky, which what we call the sticks, the boonies, all
I'm
of the
from Eastern
things.
Kentucky.
There's
Yep.
nothing there.
We're haulers.
So
Yeah.
exactly, there's nothing there but the river and tons of beauty, of course, but
Right.
in terms of getting fresh food, is far and few. You have to travel to the nearest city. And I don't want our rural folks in Kentucky to have to deal with that. Especially, I've got, I've experienced it firsthand. And it means a lot to me because there's so much talent out there as well. There are
Hmm.
so many talented farmers and food producers out there, and a lot of them have to resort to getting their food from a Dollar General. Can you
Right.
believe that? They are
Right. And
selling produce.
it's all processed. Yeah.
Exactly. They're selling produce in these Dollar General stores out in the middle of nowhere, and that
Hmm.
I absolutely will not stand for that.
Yeah.
They've got a couple years until Nori is there to take care of that
Put them on
because
watch.
it's absolutely unacceptable. But my
Yeah.
goal is to make sure that in the cities like Louisville, like Lexington, like smaller cities, Versailles, Midway, so on and so forth, wherever there are humans that need healthy food, which is everywhere, I
Yeah.
want Nori to be close enough where it's in a decent amount of walking distance. That is my goal. And it's not just in Kentucky. I want to span across the nation as well. But if tackling my home state, if we can do that first and then span, I
Yeah.
would love that. That would mean a lot to me. But especially getting down into Appalachia, and the rural parts of Kentucky, that is so important to me to get these food out to folks out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a Nori fangirl, and I will always be. And I really, really appreciate your approach. It's so comprehensive in terms of like addressing food deserts, not just in urban areas, but in rural areas too. And I think whenever we're talking about a place like Kentucky, you do see the huge differences, but the needs of the communities are similar.
Yeah.
Um, the practices themselves might be different in terms of like how you're going to go about that, but I'm
Mhm.
really excited to follow you all and see how that kind of manifests in the future. And I really appreciate you joining us and talking about this today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a great time talking about Nori. I would love your connections to any local farms that you think
Yeah.
would like to hop on the Nori bandwagon. I want to help all farmers as much as possible.
Yes.
So definitely, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. And thank you for tuning in to the Automation and Self Service podcast. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to keep up with the rest of our episodes. Thank you.